Hello and welcome to this video on integrating pedal effects, instruments and line level gear into Eurorack with the new DPW Pedal Interface module. Here's what's to come. This video is sponsored by DPW Design. If you've been following me for a while, or just happen to have seen my recent Pedal and Patches series of videos, you'll know that I love integrating pedal effects with a Eurorack system. The new pedal interface from DPW is a 4 HP stereo or dual channel pedal interface that you can use to send from Eurorack to the pedal world and back, or you could come from pedal boards and studio rigs into Eurorack and back. And while discussing this with Dan from DPW Design, I asked why and how he designed the module, knowing that he has a lot of engineering experience and musical experience, and I figured he would have tried to make this better than some of the things that he's already tried. So here's what Dan had to say.
Well, Ben, I designed this module because I felt that none of my other pedal interfaces addressed all the issues. Like impedance. I wanted to be able to stick my guitar straight in and it should sound good. If you have the wrong impedance, it could suck the tone out of your guitar sound. Like you lose the high end and the brilliance and so on, and well, that's not good. Some pedals are also sensitive to impedance. And I wanted to have some proper transient control. So I had a look at some of my really good SPL preamps where you can tune in how much clean gain and how much tube gain you want separately. So I took that design idea and I designed this module to have super clean gain up to high pedal level. And then after that it gradually hands over to tube-like gain with slight compression and the distortion and saturation you can get there. And then I designed or I voiced that part to be what I find musically pleasing. The reason I did a pedal interface instead of a line interface is that, well, you can still use it as a line interface. You just turn down the input level a little bit and it's really clean. But you then have the option to crank it up a bit, to be able to add some creative, nice dirt.
So with that in mind, let's get into 5 examples of integrating pedals for ambient effects, tube-inspired gain structures, guitar and bass direct input, modular level distortion, and integrating pedal and rack processing right at the start of your signal path rather than at the end of the chain. The timing index is on screen and down below, skip around as you like. And let's dive in. So I imagine most of us, when we reach for pedals to integrate with synths and modular, we're looking for stereo, reverbs, delays, spaces and ambiances. And that's what I'm doing here with the Planetarium 2 pedal in this first example. I have my mixer set to pre, so regardless of these being muted or not, the send is pre-level control, meaning it will always send even when muted. So I'm sending both channels out to the pedal interface to the pedal, but I'm using some pan modulation rather than just a constant send level to create a more interesting kind of effects texture in the mix. If I take this to be fully wet with the reverb, this might be a bit more obvious. You can hear bits of sound coming in and out, rather than this constant bed. They can get a little bit mushy in a mix. So that with the characterful echo, Lots of nice tape emulation on that modulation too. 2 voices with separate LFOs choosing when they send to the pedal interface, stereo back and forth from the pedal back into the modular mix. Really simple integration that sounds good and opens up the pedal world for ambient, nice big spaces and character. So here I'm using the pedal interface with a line level input. It's the Digitone here from Electron, and it's got a kind of hard, smacky, plasticky, transient rich sound, at least in the sounds that I've made here, and line level being higher than guitar level, and this being particularly transient rich. The pedal interface is handling that really well. Coming into the Time Machine and Beads for some modular effects. And you can hear these FM, as I say, kind of smacky, plasticky, transient rich sounds. They're being handled really well by the pedal interface. I'll quickly play around before we move on. As the pedal interface is meant for guitar pedal level signals and impedances, you can plug in a guitar or a bass right away. But
from the idiot that brought you Slipcam, welcome to SockTone.
Now I'm sure there's a special place on the internet, maybe on OnlyFans, for toe-based bass playing and sock camera action. But here I'm playing the bass with my feet. This is the bass going into the DPW wave folder, and then the Bafako Pony VCF, both LFO modulated. And here's my guitar into beads with the kind of tape style scorched cassette, wonky vibrato and some effects. And just to continue my idiocy of Slipcam and SockTone, I'll play both at once. As you may have seen in other videos though, in all seriousness, guitar and bass into modular can be a really fascinating thing. Do give it a go. So as the input stages here, the returns back into the interface have this soft clip limiting, this kind of compression and soft saturation effect. I wonder what it was like if we exploited it with Eurorack levels. And it's pretty bonkers. Now on the switch here I have the dry signal, it's just been split in a splitter cable, just so you can see me doing my mutes on screen rather than muting an external mixer. And let's take a split copy of what you just heard into the return. Let's pretend it's guitar level, so to speak, and then come out of that into another switch channel here that's going back for us to monitor, mix, and record. There's a nice soft kind of saturation. It's just got this hair and growl kind of on this filter resonance. Let's chain these together to kind of double up the saturation stage. So a copy of the sound into the return, again sort of pretending it's guitar level if you like. Out of this into the next channel, again sort of pretending that's a guitar signal, but it's obviously not. So we're adding amplification here into this soft clip limiting, coming out and doing that again. Now back into the switch. And there's even more drive. From my dry sound to 2 stages of saturation. Now pedal effects aren't just for end of chain ambiances or integrated into modular mixers. You can use them right at the core of the patch, right at the point that you actually synthesize sound. Here it's coming pretty much straight after an oscillator. And you can also integrate rack gear with the pedal interface, so switch into the other camera, here's some pedals for the synth voice, and some rack gear for the drums, because why the hell not? And genuinely, these are cheap bits of kit that I had lying around. Why not integrate them and make some unique sounds while you're doing it? We'll start with the drums. That's the Modbap Trinity here, and all the red cables. we're listening to it dry in this channel, but then we're listening to it wet, so I have a parallel wet-dry blend here through the pedal interface. First comes through this Alesis compressor, and I'm just slamming it, letting it hit the limiter quite hard. A lot of fast compression. And then with some EQ, really pumping that low end, carving out some of the top and adding a bit of a mid hump. Back to the dry sound. And then listen when we add this in as a parallel kind of New York style compression. Much bigger, fatter, richer, that kick really blooms. That's just the Trinity dry. Adds a lot of life and character to the beat. And this could be a pedal, rack gear as I have here, anything you want to integrate into, say, your modular drums in this example. So we're listening to a sine wave oscillator through the DPW wave folder with some modulation. That folded sine is then coming up into the pedals. First into the octaver here, where I can blend in subs. And then going into a fuzz, which I'll come to in a minute, but then into the chorus, giving this rich modulated unison style sound, and then some fuzz for colour. And these three pedals come back into the interface, out into a VCA and filter combo. So rather than end of chain, where they're going to affect this resonance and this filter modulation, it's the oscillator and folder going into the pedals, and from the pedals through the interface to the filter and folder to complete this voice. And there's a world of really cheap, affordable pedals in distortions, compressors, lots of things that'll add a lot of character to a synth and modular. Give them a go, like right after oscillators, sample players, early on in a patch, and then bring them back into a modular system for further manipulation. If you've got this far in the video, go drop a hard sync in the comments. I hope you like my SockTone, and don't go to patreon.com/DivKid asking for toe videos. But do go to patreon.com/DivKid for exclusives, access to the DivKid Discord community, and plenty more. Hit like and subscribe, that all helps out the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.